It stopped recording.
Oh, is it going now?
Yeah, it's going now. Sorry,
Okay.
it's in the middle of it, but that's all right.
Okay, no, that's fine. Yeah, it was recording before, right?
I think for like the first 10 seconds, whatever.
Okay.
It'll be fine.
It's
We'll
fine.
just we'll just start from
Yeah. My reputation from your company has been very high on my list, as well as securing a good company for this anchor store that will use that space designed for their products that you already have access to and you already know what your product line is. I don't want to have that space split up or cut up as we could avoid that because of the different clients you attract. I don't want to have the anchor store competing with the other different little satellite stores. I think that just is not healthy in that mall environment, if that makes sense.
So when you say competing with the other little stores, so are we going to be the only soft goods store in the mall, or
You know, you'll be the main with the layout. So you would be the main big store, I believe, with 84,000 square feet.
Yep.
So this would be discount. And then other little stores around the area, but your main operations, like you've said, or like the case is clothing, shoes, accessories, housewares, gifts. That's what you specialize in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because of that, and because of the product line you offer, that attracts a lot of other different customers to go to these satellite stores and kind of cruise the mall and then rake in the revenue and increase profits and stuff like that.
So just to
That makes
clarify,
sense.
yeah, of course, just to clarify from what I'm hearing is that your main issue from us changing kind of our strategies, you don't want us to compete with other stores and have them pushed out. And then also just to kind of be able to control what's kind of going on in your mall.
Yeah, and I'm sure, I mean, I've read the clause 22, and so your standard lease form that you've given me,
Mhm.
and I'm just worried that when or with what that clause states from the standard form, what I can understand, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that you're wanting that or that clause added because you want to have the opportunity to lease or sublet or change things up if needed or give it to another company or whatever the case is. And I'd like to know more about what your interests are, what your reasoning is behind that. And I think that could damage the reputation of the mall as a whole if the anchor store, the main store that attracts everyone else, kind of like the big kahuna, that would kind of cause some rifts in the satellite stores and other people and other customers not wanting to come to the mall in general if people know that the satellite store can change their layout at their will or move in a furniture store or move in a circus in that space with whatever you're wanting, if that makes sense. That's kind of where I'm coming from, that I want to make sure that it's a detailed laid out thing where there is some, I guess, rigidity or some boundaries, but not free for all, that you can do whatever you want with that space because I have a set thing in my mind with how the mall will operate and run in the future, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. That definitely makes sense. Well, I want to explain a couple of the reasons why we want to be able to change. So first and foremost, in case of a complete disaster, like 2008, if there's an economic crash or something, we'll want to be able to use that space the way we need to efficiently, such as lease it out to other companies. Now that's worst case scenario, of course. It's unlikely that thing will happen. Also, I'm very confident with the area. It's a very good area of the mall. So I don't think we're going to run into that issue. Also, we want to be able to change our tastes or change what we sell depending on the local clientele or the local customers. As well as I do, is that interests change every year. Fidget spinners, for example, last year or I guess 2 years ago were a huge thing that was around for like a month and it was gone.
Yeah.
So we want to be able to adapt with the flow. Technology is continually adapting. And then along those same lines, also, we are a national company. Like you said, we have 200 stores. So if our company as a whole wants to change one thing for all of the stores, we need to be able to do that. As the stands right now, without a clause 22, we just can't. We cannot will have that store without being able to change a few things, both locally and nationally. And then last but not least, we do love innovation. You know, we pride ourselves on innovation and being able to experiment with different things. We're actually experimenting with things on the East Coast stores right now for kind of a little play area for kids to play in while their parents go shopping. And it's kind of a less of a distraction. Now that's maybe 10%, 20% of those stores that are doing those things. They're kind of testers. And we'd love to use this location as one of these testers. So that's kind of what we're looking at, and I do believe we can reach an agreement. We are willing to think of something along the lines that we can get approval from you guys, depending on the size of the change. And also we'd want to kind of know how long you want this contract to be as well.
Yeah, and do you know I don't know if you have this information, but do you know what type of products your store or company is moving towards, or you just have that option that you want to change more into technology, or are you wanting to still stay with clothes and houseware and gifts stuff, or are you trying to change the whole product line and go a different route, if that makes sense?
As a moment, we're working with soft goods.
Uh-huh.
But I think as a company, we just want that, not freedom, but
Flexibility
to be able to, like he said, things are going to change in the future, and you don't know what's going to happen 5 years down the road. So just that flexibility of being able to switch over, not fully to hard goods, but be able to sell some hard goods. And we've also talked about this, maybe just part of the store is dedicated to hard goods, or if that would make you guys as a company feel more comfortable. So that a majority of the store still is soft goods?
Yeah.
How does that sound to you?
No, and that sounds good. I agree. I believe we can come to an agreement. I think we are in the right mindset. I'm willing to work with you, and I want to make this a profitable relationship in the future. My only concern, I guess what I was wary of with that clause, in my mind, made it sound and seem like you could bring in any company with, I don't know what their credit looks like, I don't know what their reputation looks like, I don't know what clientele they're serving or anything like that. I think that's what was making me wary and cautious of that clause 22. That's what I was more nervous about than anything. That I want discount to be in there, but then with that clause 22, it seemed like discount was wanting to change that up on their will, on a whim. They'd wake up one day and bring in a video arcade game store or a furniture store wanting to lease that space out, which is fine, but that just doesn't work with the clientele or the customers that would attract other satellite businesses, if that makes sense, or if that's what I'm understanding of that clause. So, yeah, and have you had success with the playground, or have you seen anything like that, or do you know?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And so that may be one of those things that kind of affects the national strategy, something that majority of our stores get. But from what I'm hearing, just want to kind of list down the problems that we're kind of facing, so we can kind of focus on the solution for these exact problems.
Yeah.
Is the first off is big changes versus small changes, kind of what I'm hearing. And what's that look like in terms of with hard goods, soft goods, the percentage change of the store, leasing, subleasing, everything's under that problem. And then also, as well as we do, is that the kind of the environment or the economy kind of changes every 3 to 5 years. And so we don't want to be locked into 25 years of just not being able to change anything. We want to be able to have some freedom, every 3 years, for example, being able to we'll adapt our store in a sense with your guys' approval. I think we can create a committee or something to make that happen. So those are the two biggest problems that I see, is basically just the time frame and then the size of the changes. Are you seeing any other problems that we're kind of running into here?
Not that I can think of. I'd obviously have to talk with the other board of directors and CEOs and make sure that they are on the same page. But I'm more than welcome and able to authorize and sign a contract right now if we come to that agreement. But yeah, I just wanted to make this deal where we're both mutually benefited from this, that I believe that you have a portion of revenues that will be added to your business, depending on if we reach that goal each month or quarter, however the fiscal year is set up. But that's what I'm thinking, and I'm fine. One of the reasons I like that longer term, or that 25 years, and maybe we can shorten that, or depending that, or maybe as we write this contract up, we can specifically say what needs to happen every 3 to 5 years. But that I wanted your brand, because you're aggressive marketers, you're known for that, and I like that, and I think that is very beneficial on the East Coast, in Boston, and in Massachusetts in general. And the reason I was thinking or liking that longer term, or 25 years, is because that we'd have your business or reputation or brand recognized with Mary Mac Works in the mall. But I'm fine to look at revising that every 3 to 5 years, that we look at the lease again and say, yeah, now let's, and I guess I'd want to be involved in that process with you, that we can come to an agreement, or you come to me and say, yeah, you'd like these hard goods selling in the store. Yes, we'd like to switch and change this to a children's play place, or whatever the case is. I want to be involved in that if that
totally
works. Yeah, I guess I don't know if you have questions for me, or if I don't know if there's anything else that you need to know from me, or where I'm coming from.
So you said that the 3 to 5 years sounds good to you, where we meet together at the 3-year mark and we talk about.
Continue.
I don't know. At the 3-year mark, and we talk about changes that we would want to make, or just how the company's doing, or.
Yeah, I guess maybe I was thinking, like, let's say hypothetically you sign a lease for like 15 to 20 years or something. But then, so you're there for those 20 years or 15 years, but every 3 years or so, or 3 to 5 years, we look at that lease again, look how your company's changing nationally and what your company's moving towards, and be able to work with you to change that layout if that time even comes. If not, then you're here and you're still making business, and you're still have that 200 store in Massachusetts, so you can still rake in the money. I guess, does that make sense with what I'm coming from?
Just a reevaluation every 3 years.
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
An evaluation of this lease. If things change, then I'm more than welcome to go look at that and work with you. I want this relationship to be reciprocal. I want to be working with your company. And I think if we come together and write this deal up and come together, then we would both be successful in our respective businesses and companies.
I think it sounds good to me. We originally agreed on or at least we were thinking about a 25-year agreement. I think if we just move it to 24, so that we can have like an equal 23 years, because 24 is divisible by 3.
Yeah.
I think if we just stick with that 24-year-long agreement, because we also want to be there for a while.
Yeah.
And we have confidence in the area. But just those reevaluations every 24 years or every 3 years,
yeah,
I think is a very wise decision.
Let me think of. Yeah, no, I agree. I like that agreement. Do you know, maybe in the future or looking ahead or down the road, do you know what kind of hard goods, or I don't know what information you have about your company, what their talk is upstairs about what they're wanting to move towards, or in general, they're just kind of looking at the trends and fads of the area. Is that right?
Trends and fads more than anything.
Okay.
Like we said, we are sticking with soft goods, and hard goods, we haven't planned on selling hard goods.
Okay.
That's just, like we said, like the flexibility of being able to.
Yeah.
At some point.
How long does it take for discount once they're in a location to figure out the taste of that area, if that makes sense. You said you want to figure out the East Coast, the Boston area, what the tastes are of the customers. Does that take long, or do you know that process at all?
Well, because we do have 200 stores, we're pretty familiar with the area in general. But of course, local clientele is going to change.
Yeah.
And as I kind of mentioned earlier, I think that's perfect for that 3 years to kind of change major changes. So yeah, I think it would just get us set up for like major changes every 3 years. That's what we kind of agreed or what we're looking at. I'm not sure what you think differently.
No, that sounds great.
Okay. And then last thing, so I think that addresses both the time frame and big changes. The last thing that I'm really concerned about would be smaller changes, such as the play place. If we were to, if we were only to move 10% of our store to that play place, that's not affecting a large amount of the rest of the store. And we don't want to have that be something that we have to wait every 3 years to do. And so I'd like to make a proposition is if we want to make a change, let's say use 20% of our store to sell a hard good, just as an example. If anything below 20%, would we be able to change that with a 3-month heads up anytime within that 3-year period?
Is there some due diligence that you could do or look at the forecasting of what that hard good or what that play place would do to the business in general, if that makes sense? Would you be able to say, yes, we want to introduce this play place or we want to introduce this hard good in September, and this is from the other 199 stores, this is what they've done, and this is a forecasting, and this is a profits they've received. Are you able to share that information or get that information to me?
Absolutely. We should be able to do that.
Okay. I'm more than happy to do that and accommodate that. I think I don't want this to be middleman and you have to come talk to me for we need to change the toilet paper or we need to change a light bulb or something. But I want to make sure that we're profitable together. And if you can get me that information and I can look over that, it looks like it's a feasible project and a feasible good to introduce, then I'm all for that coming into the mall. So yes, I am totally down with the 3-month leeway or whatever that case is in those 3 years. If you provide me with that information of forecasting and the stats and potential profits that could be gleaned, I am all in.
Okay. Cool.
So we'll do that for 20%.
Yeah, 20%. Yeah, that seems like a reasonable percentage, and it works for me.
Okay. Perfect. And then we'll say just like for like the bigger changes, that'd be like greater than 40% of the store, most likely.
Yeah, then I'd want to meet with you and your company and see and cross that bridge when it comes to it, or we can look at what's going on with the trends and fads or how the mall is doing in general and how we can bring more customers in. But yeah, with those bigger changes, I would definitely want to be involved and make those decisions together.
Okay.
How much of a like a heads up would you like for the 20% you wanted like a 3-month kind of heads up? So for the 40%, what are you thinking? The same amount of time, a little bit longer?
Yeah, I'd say 3 months is fine for the 20%. I think that gives us enough time to get things rolling or make a decision or go from there. If for 40%, I'd assume or think maybe 6 months or something, a little bit longer, and that could maybe change depending on what the product is, and that could maybe be shortened down to 5 or 4 to 5 months. But I think maybe if we could shoot for the 6-month mark, that would be ideal for me to understand what's going on and make the necessary changes or drop satellite tenants or bring new satellite tenants in or anything like that. And with these 3-year evaluations, typically our satellite tenants sign leases for 3 to 5 years. So those could be changing too. So I think with the 3 and 6 month heads up, that would give me more time. If those 3 years fall in the time when people's leases are up in the other part of the mall, then we can address that and go from there and get more businesses in the mall and change it up.
Okay, perfect. And then last but not least, just because these do like for the 6 month or just for like the bigger changes, of course. My last concern is that what if you just like say no every single time? So I want to make sure that we have an actual discussion or committee sort of a thing. And you mentioned concerns with affecting the other satellite businesses.
Uh-huh.
That's the biggest concern.
Mm-hmm.
If we, for example, got for lack of a better word, a committee together.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you, one of us, and then one of the other representatives of the satellite stores. Three of us got together and we proposed our change, and then you could be like, how does that affect this satellite store? And they could be like, oh, it doesn't affect us at all, and then we can agree on something. So that way, it's not just a yes no back and forth battle every 6 months or so.
No, and in my time with Hawkins, I've learned that we need to involve more people. I don't want it to be I don't want to be the all-seeing eye and say no, 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 and I don't want to have that kind of relationship. So yes, I'm more than willing and accommodating to open it up to other people and have a committee, have a little board or a mall directors or something like that we can discuss the future of the mall, how the mall is reacting to these changes and what we can foresee in the future, and how they're acting or I guess affecting the other satellite tenants. And yeah, I put it to a vote where it's unanimous, or I guess majority rules.
Mm-hmm.
But I think contingent on that, I want to see finances and statistics of what you can expect.
Of course.
For these changes to how they'd affect the general environment and the tenants and the mall as a whole. And I think if you have that information or you've done your research, then I'm more accommodating or more willing to look at that and give it, hey, we've never done this before, so then let's check it out and see if this can be a success. If not, then we can go back to the drawing board or whatever the case may be. Yeah.
Cool.
So does that work for you? Are we on the same page?
I've got no more questions. Does everything from what, so just to kind of summarize what I've written down here is that we have a 25-year contract, and that's assuming the same agreement that we reached before with $562 per square foot.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So 25-year or 24-year contract.
24.
That's right, 24. With kind of reevaluations every 3 years. Smaller changes. We have a 3-month heads up. Provide you with statistics. Kind of let you know what's going on. 40% bigger changes were involved together. This is a discussion. 6-month mark. And then we also have a committee that will kind of decide these changes.
Yes. I'm just writing this down so we can sign that. And then a committee.
Or bigger changes, yeah.
Still the 562, I believe.
And the 84,000 square feet, right?
Yes, 84,000.
562 per square foot.
562.
I think that's it.
Does that sum it up? I mean, I'll turn this into my lawyer and he can write it up in a legal, yeah.
Greater than 40%.
Perfect.
Looks good to me.
Yeah, I like it. I
Okay.
think we found.
So if you both sign that and I'll sign our initial.
By your pen.
Down below, I believe.
Okay, yeah. These are for both of us.
Okay, perfect.
It's been great meeting with you.
Yeah,
thanks so much,
thanks.
Sean.
I'm excited for this adventure.
Sounds good.